So we're going to be having Capital One doing a Intro to APIs workshop. So I'll hand over to them to get started in a second. I just want to check that we are actually live. Awesome, perfect. So I'll hand over to them now to get started.
Hi guys. So I hope you're all having a great time so far. In this workshop, we're going to give you everything you need to know about APIs. So we're going to teach you how to build out your own API integrated hack, and we're going to give you a small preview of our own API, which we hope you'll be able to use to build some cool stuff over the next few days. Throughout this presentation and the rest of the hackathon, if you've got any questions, come and chat to us in our Discord channel. And you can ask us about this workshop, show us your hacks, or ask us about our early careers program.
Cool.
Next slide.
Yep. Oh, wait.
Something slightly weird happening with the slides. I don't know what's... This is just the intro slide about us, if you want to pretend it's there.
Yeah. So, if you ever have like any questions, just come see any of us, and we'll help you out with anything you want. So for the aim of the workshop, we're going to be chatting about what an API actually is, and a bit of background information on sending HTTP requests and how the web works. Then finally a bit about what we can use APIs for. So even if you're completely new to APIs, you'll be able to like get started. And if you're already like a pro at this, feel free to like watch along and recap, or come back in 10 minutes when we'll be showing you what we've been building for you. We have our very own hackathon API for Capital One, so we'll go through how to use that as well. Yeah, and so we are hiring. So whether you're a seasoned dev or entirely new, take a look at our recruitments page, and there's like tons of great opportunities. I joined Capital One through the early career scheme, and it's been really fantastic. I've learned so much in so little time, and our graduates come from a huge range of backgrounds. So even if you don't come from like a traditional computer science or software engineering degree background, but you have a passion for building cool things, please come take a look.
Cool. So intros to APIs, on the next slide. What is an API? So an API is an application programming interface. Basically what you talk to get the internet to give us the right stuff, I think. Or yeah, thing on the internet that we talk to that gives us stuff. So they specify what stuff we ask for and the form of stuff that we give them. But what exactly is stuff? So stuff is generally, oh sorry, next slide. Stuff will generally be a request. And this is how the API will do something, whether that could be like returning data or updating data or anything. Yeah, so it's what it says on the tin. We send some data from our browser and the application over the internet to the web server, which will then do something in the back end based on the information we've provided. And the API sits in the middle of all this and decides what the kind of requests can be made, what these should look like, and what conventions should be followed. So once the web server has done something with our request, it returns a response that will let our API know, our application, sorry, know what it's done. Just confirming whether it has created a new account or made something as simple as fetching the account that a user has asked for.
So we need a way to talk to the API. Oh, we're getting feedback there. So we need a way to talk to the API. It's not a human, so we can't just say, please, can you give us this information? We actually need a protocol to talk to it. So we use the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, HTTP. Basically, that's some rules that say this is how we need to talk to an API. It's hypertext because you can send more than text. You can send images using HTTP. You can send anything. So HTTP is built up of three main things. Some HTTP verbs, which say what you're trying to do with the API. Some response codes, which the API sends back to us to say if something's worked or hasn't worked and the reason. And then the request composition, which is basically every time we send something to the API, this is how the request needs to be built up. Next slide, please. So HTTP verbs. So APIs can do lots of different things. We can use the HTTP verbs to tell them how, to tell the API what to do. So a get, so we can send a get request, which means give me some data. We can send a post request to say create some data. A put request updates some data on the server, and a delete request will delete it. So typically an application is just made up of these HTTP verbs. There are some more, but they're not as common. So after that, the API will send back a HTTP response code, and that essentially says has it worked or not. There's loads of different codes that the API can send back. The most common is a 200, and that's what you want to see. So that means everything has been successful, and hopefully you've received the data that you expected to receive. If something's gone wrong, then you might receive a 400 or 500, and it can be a 4 followed by 2 different numbers. So 4 followed by 2 somethings means something hasn't really worked, and that's usually something that's gone wrong with your request. So that's probably your fault. If it starts in a 5, then that means something's gone wrong on the server, so the API has failed. And that's usually not your fault. That's harder to deal with. There was a link here to some documentation about response codes. I've changed that to a bit of a more fun one. If you go to http.cat, then you can see lots of cats representing HTTP response codes. So an example request, so for example, if you're in your web browser, like in Chrome, and you type into the URL bar google.com, then your browser is making a GET request to https google.com. And then Google server will send back a response code of status 200, and you'll see the page that you expected. So how are HTTP requests built up? They have to be formatted in a certain way. So they're made up of a number of things. You don't always need all of these, but you have some headers, which is where we put some information about the request. An example of this would be authentication. So if you need to make sure that the server knows who you are, then you can authenticate yourself using the headers. The URL is the place they're actually making the request to. So for Capital One's API, that would be Capital One's URL, our endpoint that you can access our API. The request type is the HTTP verbs, so get, post, put, delete. So what do we want to do? And then body is how we actually send the information. So if we want to create something, then the body is where we'll put the thing that we want to create. So here's an example of a post request. Looks like this is logging in maybe to a server. So you can see we have the HTTP verb post. We have the host, the URL that we're sending it to. Then we have some different headers. So user agent, that's saying how you're making the request. So that varies depending on what browser you're using. If you're sending it from the command line, stuff like that. And it's saying close the connection afterwards. So they're the headers. And then we have the request body. You can see it says username is J Smith and the password is Hunter2. So then hopefully you'll log in. And then the server will send back a response. So if it's been successful and you've logged in, then the server will send back a 200 response. 200 means everything is good. And so then we can see the body is welcome back, Josh. So you've successfully logged in.
We also have our own API, the developer API. This was built by graduates and people that actually have been to hackathons and have been in your place. So we try to build it as easy to use as possible. And yeah, let's just see what the developer API actually is. Next slide, please. Yeah, so the developer API provides you with mock financial data. and will give you a platform and a rich database in which you can build innovative prototypes and maybe change banking for good. Next slide, please. So what you can get from the API is accounts and transactions data. This is how the accounts look like. So you'll get an account ID, and attached to it, you'll have like general information about that, like the first name of the user, phone number, and all the other information you can have. And it's worth mentioning that there are two types of accounts, credit and debit. So this could probably be a very useful information for you to build an interesting hack. Next slide, please. And we also have transactions. So attached to an account, you can have transactions. And the transaction is going to have a merchant and what kind of a purchase this was, how much the purchase was. If it's a credit, if you use the credit or a debit account, you also have an emoji there. The latitude and longitude of where the purchase happened, and just like other general information about that transaction. Yeah, if you are interested in using this, you can go to developer.capitalone.co.uk to find documentation, or just scan that QR code that's on the slide right now. What you need to use this is your own GitHub account. So you sign up with GitHub, and then if you go to developer.capitalone.co.uk/hackathon, you will have to enter a passphrase to actually access it. And we've posted this into the chat onto the other app. We will send it again in case you want to see it, but we also have it on the next slide. So if you want to see it, just make sure to take a note of this passphrase. So it is new edition such, folks. We will also send it in the other channels as well if you want to see it. Yeah, and everyone gets their own data. So if you've entered if you have logged in with your own GitHub account, you'll get unique data. No one else is going to have the same data as you do. Yeah, so the first steps of using the API is you'll have to create an account, then create a transaction, and then you'll be able to get those accounts and transactions.
Right, so this is where it gets a bit risky. We're going to try a live demo of using the API using some simple curl requests. Let me get the documentation up. So I've just got this documentation from going to the website. Can't you see if you can see me? Right, yeah. So to get started and log in, you go to get started, or if you want to look at the documentation, you can look here. So I'm going to open up both for ease. So, okay, so get started, and then this hackathon API here, get started, and we can sign in with GitHub. So I'm already logged in, so it'll take me past the GitHub page already ready. So then you'll be greeted with this session passphrase. Write it down. So this is the same for everyone. This is just like unique to the hackathon. So you submit that, and then this is what is unique to you. So you can just hit this little copy button, or you can just manually do it. So just get it just in case. So let's go to the documentation and actually see what we want to do. So we're on the shell here, so we'll be doing curl. But of course, if you're building a Python app or a Node.js app, then you can just click on here and you can see specific code snippets to use in your thing. But for ease, I'm just going to show you as a curl request in the terminal. So the first thing you really want to do is create an account. And this doesn't mean create an account for yourself. This means create some fake accounts for some imaginary customers. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this across. Actually, so for something to be a bit easier, if we set this in our terminal, we don't need to do it again. So I'm just going to put that in there and then copy across our JWT, and then that would, oh, let me try, I might have done something wrong. Oh, okay, I don't think you need the $. There you go. So that's just set it. So it's like a local variable in your terminal. So then what we can do is we can actually do this request. So we'll copy this across. And anything to be aware of is this quantity here is a variable. So we need to set the quantity of how many accounts we want to make. So I'm going to make one. I think I made one earlier. So when we list them, we should have two. I'm not sure how long they've lived for. Give it a second. Okay, cool. So we have made an account and we've made it for Cinderella. Cinderella has a credit score of 222. I think that's quite low. Poor Cinderella. But what we can do after that is, this is kind of just a bit more documentation of what all of these fields are. But then we can get our accounts. So all we need for this in our request is our JWT, which I've already set in the terminal. So I'm just going to do that. We should get back, I think, 2 accounts, or is it just 1? Okay, no, so we have got both of them. It's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can. I did a command earlier that did well. Yeah. Okay, so this is formatted a bit better. So what we've done is we've got 2 accounts, one that I made earlier and one that I've just made now for Cinderella. So if you're making a hack, you could, with this data, you could make an account per person, and then maybe they could log in as themselves, and then you can create some transactions. So for Cinderella, we're going to make her spend a bit of money. So let's go down to transactions. So it's kind of hard to see, but in here you can put in an account ID and then it will create some transactions for that account. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this and we're just going to set a local variable and we're going to find Cinderella's ID. That is my ID, account ID is here. Yep. So we'll just pop that in. And then let's copy this command. And then again, we've got a quantity for how many transactions we want to create for this account. So let's say 3. And then that should create that. So all this data is created on our end and pushed into the cloud. So when you do a fetch, like using the GET request, like we did here for the GET accounts, you're fetching it from the cloud. Oh no, we've got an error. Let's try again. I think we had this last time. It's just a bug on our side. So after we've created that, we can then go and fetch them. Oh no, got a problem. Have I made a mistake somewhere? Well, you should be able to make some transactions and then you should be able to get them. I shall look into this, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Like it's very easy to use when it works. So it shouldn't be too hard to get stuck into. Like obviously you can see I've been using the terminal for this, but very easily if you had a you're making like a web app and you were having your Node.js server, you can just pop this in. So you can like maybe when someone signs up, you can create an account for them and then you can like simulate them spending money. So you could generate some transactions for them, and then maybe based on their transactions, you could like, I don't know, maybe they've got a low credit score. Maybe you could like build some kind of app to, I don't know, do something with this information. We had a really cool hack last year where you would generate a load of transactions, and then based on those transactions, it would like calculate a like carbon footprint score, which was really interesting. And we've kind of improved the API this year so that now we have this merchant information. So we didn't have that before. So it's maybe if someone's spending a lot on food and dining, maybe they should cut back. Or if they're spending loads on, I don't know what some of the different merchants are. Some of them are really fun. Pair retail. So maybe they've been spending a lot on computers and things. So, you know, you could do some information with that. So yeah, I think I'll leave it there. I don't know what's up with it. We'll have a look into that. Hopefully you can see that it is nice and easy to get started with. So if you do have any feedback on the API, please let us know. So we do have a like feedback form. Once you sign in, you can access this by going to the give feedback. So just like what hackathon did you attend? What did you like about the API? If you used a particular feature, and if you want to improve it anyway, you think maybe some of the information somewhere isn't enough, like the merchant information, maybe you want a field for something else, just recommend it. And hopefully we can build that into the API for next year. So yeah, I think our API works really well with our challenge. You don't necessarily have to use the API, of course, but yeah, it definitely fits in quite well. Like you don't need to do a super integrated app with the API. You can just use it maybe here and there for like the account data or transactions, whatever. So really cool if you use it. Thank you very much for listening. Apologies about the technical issues at the beginning. I don't know what happened with that slide. It just did not want to load. But no, hopefully you've learned something, and give us a shout if you have any questions, or you just want some ideas for a hack, or you just want to show off your hack. That would be awesome. So good luck with your hacks, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks for having us.